En- Vamos lá. Bom dia, tudo bem?
Bom dia, tudo bem, Aaron?
Tudo ótimo. É você?
Tudo ótimo, tudo bem por aqui.
Ótimo, ótimo. A seguinte, ok, o meta de hoje que eu quero fazer, fala um pouquinho sobre como você aprendeu os idiomas, diferenças culturas, e vamos tentar em 3 idiomas. Então me fala um pouquinho sobre você, como você aprendeu inglês. Vamos lá primeiro.
Tá, eu aprendi inglês, comecei a estudar inglês com 17, 18 anos. Era um sonho meu falar inglês como um nativo. Então, mas naquela época eu não trabalhava, enfim, eu passei, acho que durante 6 meses eu só estudava inglês. Eu estudava 7, 8 horas por dia, né? Tentava imitar o sotaque americano, tinha aqueles radinhos com CDs que eu usava para melhorar a pronúncia. E com 1 ano e meio eu já fiz todos os livros, eu fiz todas as etapas de um curso, de uma escola de idiomas e estava apto a conversar. Eu já falava bem já.
Só uma curiosidade. Era fitas ou CDs na época?
CDs, CDs.
CDs.
E tinha uma revista muito boa que se chamava Speak Up.
Ah, eu
Não sei
conheço, eu
se ela
lembro, eu
existe
lembro.
ainda, que você tinha lá um.
Eu acho que existe ainda naqueles bancos de jornais.
Existe, as antigas. Tinha o CD com as pronúncias, com gírias, então era bem legal.
Então, é a seguinte, eu sei que você é um cara muito talentoso com idiomas, mas qual foi sua maior dificuldade?
Eu acho que todo mundo passa por uma etapa em qualquer idioma, que é aquela etapa que parece que não entra nada na cabeça. Que eu acho que é quando você começa a ver os tempos verbais, quando você começa a ter que fazer sentenças mais complexas, você fala, cara, isso daqui não entra na minha cabeça. E eu acho que é aí que todo mundo desiste. É a etapa que todo mundo fala, não, daqui não vai mais, que é aquele cara que estudou 2, 3 anos de inglês e fala, pô, eu estudei não sei quantos anos e não vou para frente, desisti. Ou já estudei inglês várias vezes, já estudei aquele
Eu
idioma várias vezes.
chamo isso o curso de Present Perfect.
Present
Quando,
perfect.
exatamente, porque eu falo sempre para os meus alunos, Present Perfect, vamos usar, mas pensa no passado simples de português. Em vez de eu tenha trabalhado, eu trabalhei, acabou.
Exato.
Certo?
É essa confusão que deixa bagunça a cabeça, porque você quer traduzir literalmente do inglês para o português, aí vira uma salada. E isso piora quando você vai para línguas como italiano e francês, que
Então é o
aí começa.
seguinte, para pessoas que querem aprender inglês, o Present Perfect, Past Perfect, qual dica você tem para eles?
Olha, o que você acabou de falar é não traduzir literalmente do inglês para o português. Então, I have been, você fala eu estive, acabou. I have made, eu tenho feito, eu fiz. E ter na cabeça que você tem que entender a sentença no idioma, não traduz, senão bagunça. Aí são estruturas diferentes, né? O português e o inglês têm estruturas diferentes. Então não traduz.
Certo, beleza. So let's go to English. So the audience can see we're not talking shit and you speak English and I'm an English teacher.
Ok.
So let's talk about culture. So which countries have you been to? I know you've been to loads, but name like 10. Like some English speaking, some Latin language speaking, obviously Dutch or German if you've
Yeah.
been to. Talk about some how you say this countries you've been to, and in the end, which was the best? Do you think? Which was the worst, and in which way?
Yeah, so I have been to 24 countries so far. I started traveling because my professional activity requires that. So, for example, now I'm responsible for Latin American countries. So I have been to all these countries in South America, such as Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, and you name it. So all the South American countries, more or less, I have been to. I have also been to some European countries, such as Holland. I work for a Dutch company, so I travel to Holland quite often throughout the year. Uh, I would say that I would compare the Dutch culture with the Latin American one. You see clearly the differences. So the Latin American country is much more relaxed. People are warm. People are friends with you in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes time, they tell you their whole life story. Whereas in Holland, it's completely different. People are cold. If you are invited to a Dutch colleague's house, then you should make a party out of it because this is very uncommon. He has to trust you. So I think also the objectiveness of the Dutch culture. I like the way they dress things. So if you ask a Dutch guy, hey, how my hair looks like, if he thinks your hair looks good, he'll say, man, your hair looks good. But if your hair doesn't, then he says, man,
It
your
looks
hair is
shit.
terrible.
Okay.
Whereas in the Latin American culture, it's completely different. If you ask,
So,
they'll say, hey, your hair is good, but maybe you could change this and that. So,
so
so,
how does my hair look today?
oh, it's yeah, you should improve it.
Thank you very much. There's actually black gel in it. I don't even have gray hair. Actually, would call in Portuguese gray hair, but in Dutch, actually we call it in Dutch gray hair, and in Portuguese white hair.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I have this obsession of putting black gel in it.
yeah.
Okay, and since it's my birthday, I thought I put some black. Uh,
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday, man.
it's my 37th,
Yeah. 2 years.
but I have to admit, that I look very young.
Yeah, sort of.
Special, sort of. Thank you very much. Especially if I do my beard. Believe it or not, I paid 50 reais on this beard, and it looks like shit.
Yeah.
But let's forget about it. Let's dive a little bit more into warm and cold culture because people always tell me this. But and in making friends. So I have a little bit of a different definition about friendship. Okay, so what is making a friend to you?
Well, making a friend is getting to know each other. Is
So do you mean is how you said it, making an acquaintance, like having or having a real friend?
yeah, two different things. Because I think a real friend is the guy you invite over to your house for a beer.
Yes.
So that I see lots of people also in Brazil or elsewhere that say, yeah, he's my friend. That guy, well, he's my friend. Well, and then, this guy that works with me, well, he's my friend. Have you ever invited him over to your house for a coffee or for a beer or for a barbecue? Because if you have not, he's just a colleague, he's not a friend. So a friend is more intimate. You know him, you support him on good and bad times. You're there, he calls you, he remembers you, and then this is what friendship looks like. And yeah, and getting acquainted to each other, I think is a stage of a real friendship, but it's not all.
Okay,
I
good.
think friendship requires touching, warmth, and
So touching, what do you mean by this? Because this is very cultural. If you touch a guy in
it's,
Holland, you probably get a different reaction than if you touch a guy in Brazil.
I know, but touching in the sense of warmth, of being
Yes.
close to. That's what I mean. Touching is Latin American, 100%.
Yes, very, very good. So if you would stand, let's say, today we have smartphones, so I think that changed a lot because everybody's on their smartphone all the time. But say, I remember 10 years ago, smartphones were not very common in Brazil. And if I was waiting to pay a bill in at the bank, I would talk to people. These days, it's completely gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
true.
And in Holland, this never existed. Even today, still in Brazil, people's like, tá demorando pra caramba, it's taking too long. Okay. Where in Holland, people will look at you if you're crazy. So
Yeah.
I kind of get your point. So, and what do you think is the coldest thing people do in the Netherlands to you when you go there?
Man, it's for me it was a little bit weird in the beginning when I started working for this Dutch company now for 4 years plus. But in the beginning, I would stay, let's say, 4 or 5 months away, and when I came back to the office, my colleagues, some of them, uh, they pretended they didn't know me, but not, it's not that they pretended they didn't know me, but it's their way of behaving. So I would pass by them in the office, and I was expecting them to say, "Hey, Rodolfo, hello, man, how are you?" But they were simply passing by. They looked at me and they kept walking. And that was a little bit, let's say, strange for me back then. Now I'm used to it, and I have to say that last time I was in Holland, October last year, I had a much more warm, let's say, I had a much more warm welcome than the
Okay.
previous times. So people, when they saw me coming to the office, they were screaming, "Hey, Rodolfo! Hey, man, how are you?" So you see that it's not that their behavior is like they pretended they didn't know me. It's because we were not so close. So now that we
Yes.
have been, more actively talking to each other via conference calls and so on, now people they want to be around me, so to speak. But it's
So the like the
takes time.
famous Bora uma no in the Netherlands is quite hard at times because it's very hard. Like happy hour, obviously, is like worldwide these days.
Yeah,
But let's say on the Monday for people to have a beer, it's quite hard.
yeah, true.
Okay, so the last question in English, which I always find very fascinating. If I ask for directions in Portuguese, people will almost walk with me to the location.
True.
Okay? They say, oh, there's a yellow building. Can you see it there? Then go to the left or the right. Oh, wait, I'll walk with you. Even it's completely out of his direction where he's going. So, have you ever asked for directions in the Netherlands?
Probably when I was a tourist. But well, I was in Amsterdam, so I don't have so much reference because Amsterdam is a multicultural city.
Yes.
So it's like it's like Canada. If you find a Canadian, you're a lucky guy. If you're in Canada and you find a real Canadian, it's the same in Amsterdam. If you
Yes, you
the
can find.
Dutch,
I think we have. Okay, don't quote me on this. In our small city, and maybe you can explain a little bit later how small it is. Uh, from almost every country in the world, we have one citizen. I think we have the most cultural city in the world. More than many people think it's Sao Paulo, but it's far from it.
yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit. When you first came to Amsterdam, you're probably expecting a mega city, 24-hour culture, and it's basically not. If you're in some places, if you don't buy your stuff at 6 and you're far away from like an Albert Heijn, you're basically effed. So, what was the biggest culture shock? Like the size, the time things closes. Uh,
Yeah, I have to say that well, culturally speaking, the coldness of the Dutch that now I'm used to. On city-wise, speaking of Amsterdam, I stayed at this hotel which was more or less at the city center. So for 4 or 5 days, I didn't have to use transportation to move around. Nice thing about Holland as well in Amsterdam is that everything is flat. The streets are flat, roads are flat. And one thing that caught my attention was that there are these how do you call these information plates, and then it's written over there. Let's say 5 minutes by car and 30 minutes by bike, something like this. Because
Yes.
since everything's flat, so you don't have mountains, you don't have so you can keep more or less at a certain speed. You be at this place at this time. Another thing interesting about Amsterdam and the bikes is that they can be much more dangerous than cars.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. You're probably talking about the tram, that
Not
electrical
really the tram,
train.
not the tram, the bikes, the bicycles,
I
because
know, but
bicycles don't make it.
yes.
They don't noise. They don't. You don't hear their noises, and then you don't look
Yeah, the
sides.
bell
All of a
doesn't
sudden,
really go over the sound of the sound of Amsterdam. Where most accidents actually happen, if I'm not mistaken, that electric train has a habit of hitting people and bicycles.
yeah,
That's why rent a bike is probably it's a good business, but it's probably pretty dangerous.
true. That's true. Pretty true.
And also, what do you think about the size of Amsterdam?
But it's small enough for moving around, so you can easily go everywhere on a walk. So everything is within a 30-minute range maximum. Everything,
Yes, you can
the
go everywhere by
farthest
foot.
you
There's
can, you can go by foot.
actually something very interesting. Saint-André, for people that live here, is bigger than our capital.
Santander is much bigger because sometimes you see an address that is, hey, it's in Santander, the city I live in, and then all of a sudden you are half an hour by car away. So that's pretty different. But Amsterdam, so Amsterdam is quite interesting in that, and also Holland, because Holland you can go from north to south, I guess, in 2 hours, and east to west in 3-4 hours maximum. So everything is within a very close range. And Amsterdam is also like this. So if you are in a good hotel, you can move around with no worries on taxis or any other kind of transportation. You can walk around and you can visit all most interesting places in Amsterdam in 4 or 5 days max.
Okay, yes, because otherwise you have to repeat stuff. So the
Exactly.
last question, what's the biggest tip for people that go to Amsterdam, and what's the most interesting thing you have seen?
Well, uh, a nice tip I would give is take this boat tour because
Okay, the
it
canal
really,
cruise.
yeah, the canal cruise, because there is much history, and you can see a lot when you go by boat. And what I really liked as well was the Anne Frank's house. You can
Okay.
feel the energy at some point of the tour. So but be sure to book it first.
Yes, otherwise we'll
Uh,
be in line for 4 hours.
exactly, exactly.
For the people that are watching, I put all the links in the description later. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a part of English. So ready for the Dutch part?
Yes, but maybe yeah. Let's go for the Dutch.
So Rodolfo's been my student for Dutch. We had a little break because of New Year's and some other stuff, but I'm gonna show you. He knows some basic stuff. It's gonna be some basic questions. Basically, some stuff he already said in Portuguese, in Dutch, but I'll show you. Dutch is not impossible to learn. Okay? So, Nederlands. Rodolfo, hoe oud ben jij? Waar woon jij? Heb jij kinderen? Ben je getrouwd?
Ja, ik heb twee kinderen. Een is 1 jaar oud. En
Is het een zoon of een dochter?
het is een zoon. Een
Hoe
zoon.
heet jouw zoon?
Gabriel en
Goed,
Gustavo. Gustavo is 5 jaar oud.
oké.
Ja,
Perfect. En ben je getrouwd?
ben ik. Ja,
Getrouwd. Heb jij een vrouw?
ja, ik heb
Officieel of niet officieel?
officieel. Het is, ja. Zijn is 3 en 30 jaar oud. En zijn is ingenieur. How do you say that?
We gebruiken vaak het Franse woord ingenieur.
Yes, civil engineering.
Oké, het Franse woord. Je spreekt Frans.
Ja, man, I failed.
You can use engineer. It's fine. Okay, for now.
Ja.
Okay, so I don't have to teach you the Dutch word. So, wat zijn jouw hobby's?
Ik ga naar sportschool voor 5 dagen per week.
Dagen? Dagen.
Ik ga naar jiu-jitsu school ook.
Oké, vaak gebruiken we het woord ik train jiu-jitsu.
Ik train jiu-jitsu
Oké,
voor 1, 2 keer per week.
goed. Oké, perfect. Maar wat is jouw favoriete sport?
Jiu-jitsu.
Goed.
Jiu-jitsu.
En vroeger, oké. Welke sporten heb jij eerder getraind? Heb jij gevoetbald, gebokst, gekickbokst? Wat heb jij
Boxing,
gedaan?
Muay Thai. Ik heb boxing, Muay Thai, karate, jiu-jitsu gedaan.
Oké, perfect. Heel goed. En wat is jouw favoriete eten?
Uh, Italië, ik denk.
Italiaans?
Italiaans. Italiaans.
Perfect. Maar Italiaans uit Brazilië is anders als in Italië. Anders, significa differentie.
Ja. Italiaans in Brazilië is one thing.
Is anders, is anders.
Is anders, exactly.
Oké, goed, perfect. Oké, dus jij werkt voor een Nederlands bedrijf. Spreek jij soms Nederlands? Of schrijf jij soms Nederlands?
Can you repeat the question in English?
Okay, sometimes do you speak Dutch or English? Dutch or write Dutch in your company? Like,
Yes, ja,
okay, perfect.
I do.
En gaat het goed?
Ja. Ik spreek let's say easy words for the beginning.
Makkelijke woorden.
Jordan. But I in English now I can make out because I have these conference calls every now and then and meetings and I have these colleagues speaking Dutch, so I can make out several parts of the conversation. It's quite positive.
Oké, dus je begrijpt, like, understand, je begrijpt de gesprekken.
Ja.
Oké,
Ja.
perfect. Oké, wat ik vergeten ben. Waar woon jij? Hoe oud ben jij? Waar woon jij? Welke stad?
In Nederland?
Nee, waar woon jij in Brazilië? Jouw woonplaats.
Ah, Santo André.
Goed zo,
Ah, ja,
perfect.
ja, ja. Ik woon
In
in Santo
welke
André.
staat in Nederland hebben we een provincie? Noord-Holland. En in Brazilië heb je een staat. In welke staat is Santo André?
São Paulo.
En hoeveel kilometer is Santo André van de hoofdstad?
Ik denk het is 20 kilometer.
Goed. Ga jij vaak naar São Paulo?
Ga jij wat?
Vaak, vaak en moeite. Ga jij vaak naar São Paulo?
Ah, nee, nee, nee. Mijn vader woont in São Paulo, maar ik ga niet veel keer
Vaak.
vaak naar, naar his house,
Zijn huis.
zijn house, exactly.
Ok, that's it. Então, gente, para resumir, eu não preparei ele para nada. Eu avisei ele hoje para fazer entrevista, certo? Ele teve 0 segundos para se preparar. Nem para inglês, nem para português, nem para holandês. Então, você está de parabéns.
Obrigado.
E vamos para frente.
Seguimos. Ok?
Seguimos.
Abraço, gente.
Tot volgende week.
Tot volgende week.
Tot
Bye.
ziens.
Tot ziens.